All right, Huber.
Yo.
The other game that I saw with 11-Bit Studios in Poland is Frostpunk 2.
Hardcore 2.
Yeah. 11-Bit Studios, maker of stressful video games.
Yeah.
So just for full clarification, I'd never played the first Frostpunk. I was just kind of vaguely familiar with it.
Same. I saw it from afar.
Like you said, the reputation of this is demanding and hardcore.
I only got time for Darkest Dungeon. That's takes it out of me already, you know. Frostpunk is maximum intimidation, but it looks so cool, Bloodworth.
Yes. And then I had been booked for this event before the beta came out, so I had played the beta. They sent me a key to the beta, and that was more of like the open sandbox. And what they had at the event, this is hands-on with the actual campaign.
Nice.
For the first
so a little
time.
more direction rather than just like survive as long as you can.
Right. Yeah. So they had like some onboarding and stuff
Yeah.
with that, but this is like more, it's like, okay, take your time, learn the systems, and try to live. But if you're not familiar with these games, I guess like the best way I can describe them is like sort of like SimCity on your back foot.
Yeah.
Like you're starting out from a negative position.
Definitely.
You're starting out already behind on resources and trying to take care of people. And with massive storms approaching, is basically the whole earth has just been covered in frost. And you're trying to just not freeze to death, basically. And like I said, I don't know like all the events of the first one. I know that this one is like 30 years later.
Okay.
Basically, before we even started playing, they did say that this one was made to be more replayable.
Nice.
In terms of the campaign. And then they announced also that there's going to be a Twitch integration for voting. And I'm going to get deeper into this later, but basically, like, you have this whole social element now to where, like, you have to appease different factions and pass certain laws and stuff. And now your chat can become a part of whether or not your laws will pass.
That's going to go well.
Yeah, they pretty much assume that the chat will always vote against you.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Unless it's Easy Allies chat. They have our back.
Yeah. And then before you really get like into the meat of it, there is like a prologue chapter to where you're like this group of
tutorial
of wanderers. Yeah, essentially tutorial. I will say that I failed this straight up and had to start over.
Failed the tutorial. Good start. Okay.
And I was not only was I not the only one, but I felt a little bit better when I found that there were other people that had failed it multiple times.
Perfect. So yeah, really setting the tone here.
Yeah.
Are there difficulties?
But I think that there are.
Okay.
I think that there are.
Yeah.
But essentially, before you do anything, you have this thing that you have to do called frost breaking, because again, ice is covering everything.
Yeah.
And so like before you build a structure, before you can like get to another area or whatever, it's like you have these guys with like these like big old saws or whatever, just breaking the ice. And so it's like, okay, you found like a source of oil or coal or food.
Harvest that, build there.
You've got to like smash the ice first, and then you can build your structure on top of it.
Sweet.
And then...
Can you zoom in pretty far to like see the people?
Yeah, you can't like... I don't think you can like see the people necessarily. But when you zoom all the way in, you like the audio does change to where like you can hear like the city sounds and all of that. So it's pretty cool. And then your main goal in the prologue is just to stockpile enough food to survive when the storm comes.
Yeah.
And so it's like you've got to find where the food resources are, and then you've got to
hunker down.
Yeah, but it's like. And that's why I failed it, because I was still sort of figuring things out. And so it's like not only do you have to find sources of food, but you also have to like build up your housing. So then you could also build like storehouses, because by default you don't have enough space to store the amount of food that you need. So, and you know, all of this stuff is going to use resources. It's going to take heat. You have to have enough housing for people to not freeze to death.
Yeah.
And so, but it's like, yeah, again, that first time was like a learning experience. Like, okay, now I know what I'm doing. And then like the second time, I kind of smashed it.
Nice.
There weren't as many social elements in the prologue, but you did have to decide whether to force people to work longer shifts.
Back to work.
Which will produce more food, but loses your trust.
Mm-hmm.
And if you lose too much trust, then it's also like, yeah, they're done with you. So, and then there was another thing with you find like a group of like seals that had survived, and you have to again decide like, do we hunt these sustainably so it'll be a long-term resources, or do we just try to like hunt as many as we can now to survive the winter?
Crazy.
And maybe figure out what happens later.
Yeah.
So,
so really hard choices.
Yeah.
Throughout.
And then after the prologue, you're in New London, which is already a sizable central city. I think this is where it picks up from the first game.
Mm-hmm.
So the original captain or whatever is passed on. You're the new steward. Now you have to like pick up the pieces of this city that's already built and start to expand and figure out what all to do there.
Cool.
And this is where you get more into having to deal with the different factions and all of this stuff. And so like when you build like a research center, and the research center has all kinds of different things from like different kinds of technology and hospitals and social policies and things like that. And the further you get down any of those branches, the more options. It's actually like a fog of war.
Crazy.
In the research center. It's kind of interesting.
That is cool.
But like researching like a new type of coal mine, you have to make these choices too. It's like, okay, this is going to use less resources but cause more pollution, or this is going to be more efficient but it's going to make your people more diseased, and trying to weigh all these different factors. And not only do you have those resource factors to kind of balance out, but there are also different factions that are more in favor of one decision or another. And then that plays into, like I was saying, the passing the laws and stuff.
Yeah.
And so you get to these different social policies. Some of them will be like what kinds of things that you build, but others will be like schools. And it's like, okay, we got to get the kids off the street. Let's invest in some schools. And then after the schools are running, then there's like these people. It's like, we need to stop filling these kids' heads full of useless facts and figures, and we need to get them to learn how to hunt and survive and all of this.
Yeah.
And then there are other people who are like, well, no, we need them to have higher learning. And if you have the higher learning, then your research will go faster and all of this kind of thing. And so it's interesting is usually when you bring things to a vote, and both the research and the voting like takes longer to build up. You have like, okay, there's a certain amount of people that are for, there's a certain amount of against, and there's like this big hazy bar in the middle of like, you're not sure whether this thing is going to pass or not. And then you can look at the different factions and basically make a deal. It's like, okay,
backdoor shady deals.
If I make a deal with this faction, I've got like 3 options. It's like, I can promise them to enact this social policy, or I can promise them this.
Can you break promises?
Yes,
Awesome.
And that's the thing is that you can very easily unintentionally break promises to where you promise something to these guys, and then later on you make a promise to these other guys, and like that actually conflicts with the first promise you made, and you make the other guys upset.
Classic.
Yeah. And then as time goes on, and for like a number of different reasons, so you kind of start off with like 2 factions, but as you progress, as you get these different technologies and social things, and even like new groups move into the city, you start to get these different branching factions. And so like people will leave one faction for another faction. Now you've got 3 factions to deal with, 4 factions to deal with. And if some people get like too unhappy with you, they'll just start protesting.
Jeez.
And when they're protesting, like if they're protesting outside of a factory or whatever, then that factory is essentially shut down.
Damn.
And not bringing resources
real life,
into
dude.
your heat. Or not producing food or whatever. And it's like, okay, I've got like 30 days before the storm comes and starts freezing everybody out.
Can they overthrow or assassinate you?
I think that's a game over, but
Okay.
But yeah, I think that like they completely distrust you.
Jeez.
And you be in that situation. And then like, yeah, like some of these situations. Let me see. Yeah, so at one point, like I had a mine that was like drying up essentially, and you can choose whether to do we use explosives to like get the rest of the resources out, or do we send children
Whoa.
into the tunnels?
Child labor, dude.
Right, but it's like because of the survival situation and that like where people have come from, like people have already been doing this stuff for decades, like people are more open to that.
Yeah.
But then
and it's a freaking apocalypse. Post apocalypse.
Exactly. But then you get the kids down there and then there's this fire. And you have this option of like, do you rescue the kids and get them out of there? But then the fire you'll lose access to the remaining resources, or do you snuff out the fire, but then the kids will suffocate too, right? And then you think that like, okay, well, saving the kids is the way to go.
You gotta
right?
save the kids.
You gotta save the kids.
You gotta save the kids.
The kids get mad at you. Because it's the thing, you're in this survival situation, so people are willing to sacrifice themselves
than the life,
for the greater whole. And you have the same kind of thing where like you get into these like dire situations with food, and like the old people's like, well, we'll just go wander off into the wasteland,
oh my God.
And leave more food for others. And it's like, yeah,
heavy.
Dealing with all of this stuff, dealing with all the social implications of different things.
Hype, dude. This sounds awesome.
And then once you start getting not that far into it, like you realize that there's like not a lot of resources right where you are.
I would imagine.
Right. And so like the coal is gonna run out. And so you need to find new sources.
You set up little satellite bases.
Yeah. So essentially this is what ends up happening is that you have to like uncover these old research bases and stuff. And then you like build like an expedition base on those. And then you have like a very limited number of people that you can send out on expeditions. And so then you get this like zoomed out map, like way farther away from where your town is. And so you can send people out on these expedition things, and it'll take them a while to like scout out an area. And then when you scouted out an area, you might find like an old coal mine or like a band of survivors or like another food resource. And then you can like set up these trails from that resource back to your main town.
Cool.
And then those also take some of the people that you would have to do further expeditions. And so that's kind of thing. It's like when you do one point, then you can kind of go further out and further out. And so again, it's like this fog of war. It's like you don't know what's out there.
Just keep inching out.
Send somebody out in that direction.
Yeah.
But that's one of the things I was running into is like, okay, I only have so many people that are trained to do expeditions. Okay, right now I've got them bringing back coal, but we're starting to get low on food, so maybe like transition those guys, like stop doing the coal, send over the food instead.
Yeah.
And then with the bringing in new people, that has a whole range of implications. It's like, okay, well, I need more workers, but then I've got these factions that start to get resistant to outsiders.
Sketchy.
And then I might be bringing in disease. And then you have like different types of hospitals. Even like you could have a hospital, but you could also have like a teaching hospital. You could have some other kind of hospital.
Yeah.
And then eventually, where the demo ends is when you find a source of oil that you can start shipping back to your main city.
Daniel Plainview.
But in order to do that, you actually set up a second city.
Nice.
So now I've got two cities to manage, and who knows how
with
many.
Each other, like, oh man.
Yeah. So.
Wild.
Yeah.
I'm very intimidated, but it's still one of those games where I'm so intimidated, but the barrier for entry does just seem so insurmountable, but it's just about like cracking that seal, dude. Just getting in there.
Because I felt super intimidated by this game
and then
when I did the beta.
Then you get lost in it.
And I was like, I don't know what any of these icons are. It's like, you want coal. Okay, cool. What does coal look like?
Yeah.
Which again, the campaign does a little bit better job of breaking you in.
Totally.
But I think
just a little bit of direction. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the thing too, is like if if you're not afraid of like yeah,
I'm not afraid of failing.
You're gonna fail. You're gonna die that first time.
Yeah.
Cool. Try again. Then the second time around, I was like, great. I got. You know, I know what I need to do. I just need to do it more efficiently and more quickly. You know.
Yeah. I'm streaming this for sure, Blood. You sold me on it, I'm in.
Yeah. So it's again, it's something that's usually outside of my wheelhouse. But like I really enjoyed my time with it, you know. And it's like maybe I'm not the best person to say how good it is.
No, that's such a promising place to be, though. When it's like, oh, it's not really my genre, but I loved it. Like that's a very good sign, Blood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So good stuff, and that is coming fairly soon.
Nice.
They're gonna keep you cool in the summer. That's July 25th. On PC, and I know it's coming to PS5 and Xbox as well, but I'm not sure if it's coming out like day and date or if they're going to come later.
Yeah.
And then it's also going to be Game Pass.
Nice.
So
incredible value.
Yeah, incredible value. So look forward to that, and thank you to 11-Bit for having me come out to check out these games.
Sold me on the game, dude. I want to stream this like late night, just settle into the frozen wasteland.
yeah. Well, that's the thing too with these kind of games is like, I feel like once you get sucked in, then there's not really like a stopping point. It's like you just kind of like have to force yourself to like, okay, now I'll stop.
Yeah, one more turn.
Because there's
one more
always
day.
like,
more day.
I'm doing this thing over here and that thing over there and this thing over there.
This thing's about to level up. Okay, I'm gonna wait
exactly.
for that. Okay,
or it's like I need
a little more to develop this tech. Yes.
Yeah, I need to wait just a couple of days so I have enough, you know, cash that I can build this thing that I want to build. So.
Hell yeah.
But the social stuff is just having people go at it.
We will not be intimidated, Bloodworth.
But thanks for watching. We are Easy Allies. If you like these previews, please check out more stuff on our channel and go over to patreon.com/easyallies because we are able to do this because of people like you who give us that monthly support. So go over there, consider becoming a patron, and check out our podcast every week, and we'll see you soon.